terms of the news and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, apologies. We're having a fascinating conversation about Liverpool centre-backs. We might as well react to the breaking news.
Carry on talking about centre-backs, shall we?
Yeah, we will do. We'll go live on YouTube. Do you need to send any messages? You need to do anything?
No,
any tweets to
I'm all
post?
good. I'm all good.
Are we live on YouTube?
Yeah.
We are live on... Hey, everyone. Welcome. Yeah, wow. Hello, welcome to the Red Men TV. We're now live on YouTube. I'm Ste Horde. This is Paul Gorst of the Liverpool Echo. We were in the middle of our usual journo insight show. We were having a fascinating conversation about Liverpool centre-backs, and as it happened, the news is now broken. Well, pretty much, Liverpool have done their little teaser tweet. Virgil Van Dijk's contract announcement set to be announced in the next couple of seconds, you would think. So we're going to react to it live. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. I've been caught a little bit on the hop, a tiny little bit. But yeah, Paul, the news that we were all expecting, the worst kept secret in the world, but Virgil van Dijk has committed his future. Less than a week after Mohamed Salah committed his future. It's fantastic news for Liverpool.
Yeah, brilliant news, and getting the sort of speaking to him after the West Ham game, and it's the least coy he's been all season. He said he was almost just basically revealing that it will be a 2-year deal, and it will be announced next week. And I think one of the key things for him was that he didn't want it to be announced on Tuesday for the clash with the Hillsborough anniversary, which is all right and proper, and that should be remembered the way it should be. And if you've got some good news to deliver about when he plays further down the line, then do it when the decks are clear. And they have chosen Thursday morning, shall we say. I was half expecting it to be Friday again, the way it was with Mohamed Salah last week, when I think a few people were caught on the hop at 8 a.m. But 11 a.m. announcements that Virgil van Dijk is going to be the Liverpool captain for another 2 years. It's brilliant news. Not exactly unexpected news, but it just sort of reaffirms his importance to the club and what a player he has been and will continue to be for Liverpool.
Absolutely. Get your comments in, guys. We are streaming live on YouTube. Quick switch over from Journo Insight. Paul's got some tweets to send while he does. I'll read that. So yeah, Liverpool's announcement, by the way, it's a very classy one. The skipper stays. It was always Liverpool is the comment we've got there from Liverpool. A classy picture of Virgil van Dijk. Everyone going nuts in the YouTube comments, delighted with what we're seeing there. Great news, says Tidor. Sigurdsson says, that is my captain. Yes, Virgil, says Frank. It's one of them, Paul. Like, I don't know, again, two players who wanted to stay.
Yeah.
But I'm guessing it was complex for a number of different reasons, because how long do you give them? How long do they want? How much money do they want? Are they still good? Can they still play?
Yeah.
There's a lot that's gone on here.
Yeah.
And it's taken a while, but eventually we've got to where we need to be.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the case for either, where, it's 25 years of age and the best years are to come, and you've got no doubt about it. Van Dijk will be 34 in July and Mo Salah is 33 in June. So you have to consider that these are players who are very much in the twilight of their careers. So it's not a case of give them what they want and unstable the wage bill, the finances for the coming years. It's you've got to be sensible about it, and I think that's what Liverpool have had to do. They have to be convinced that these two players are not going to drop. Are not going to drop off a cliff and suffer, not even a poor run of form. It's just sort of, what happens at the back end of many careers where you can't do it anymore. And what's the old phrase was it Jamie Carragher? Leave the defender before the defender leaves you, or whatever.
The Casemiro one.
To paraphrase it. So it's not necessarily been one that Liverpool have just sort of blinked and gone, no problem, Virgil, sign on the dotted line. But I think what he has done this season has proven that he can still operate at levels that see him as arguably the best defender, if not one of the best, sort of 2 or 3 in the league or in Europe. And that almost unspoken promise with the club has led to the reward. So he gets what he wants. 2 years extension. Fans get to continue singing about him on the cop, and Liverpool will be stronger next year for having their captain on board for the coming 2 years.
Absolutely. Scott says here, what a way to start the Easter weekend. The captain stays with the ship. Absolutely. He's going, no, he's not jumping out. On that, Liverpool, I'll read Liverpool's official announcement. It says, Virgil van Dijk has today signed a new contract with Liverpool FC to extend his time with the club beyond the 24-25 season. The captain put pen to paper on a deal to ensure his association with the Reds will continue in the forthcoming campaigns almost 7 years after he initially arrived. Follows on from Mohamed Salah doing the same thing last week. And then Van Dijk's comments, I'm very happy, I'm very proud. There are so many emotions, obviously, that go through my head right now speaking about it. It's a proud feeling, a feeling of joy. It's just incredible. The journey I've had so far in my career, to be able to extend it with another 2 years at this club is amazing. And I am so happy that, and it goes on and on and on. In fact, they don't announce, they never do this, Liverpool don't give you the number, but we're led to believe, Paul, just to clarify, it's the same as Mo Salah, we think 2 years.
Yeah, we are aware there is a 2-year extension, and it was fascinating really speaking to him after West Ham and just hearing him talk, and you know there was a couple of instances that just sort of showed what a leader he is off the pitch as much as on it, because we mentioned about the first thing we have to sort of recognise is that it's Hillsborough next week, and all of our thoughts will be with the families affected by it and the people who still suffering. Was it 36 years on, and that was a bit of a that is the sort of messaging you have to deliver as Liverpool captain. And then as he's talking to us, he stops and then he turns around. He says, "Oh, sorry, I've just got to say hello," and it's Sean Cox and his wife Martina coming through the mix zone, and he stops. He says, "How are you guys? Are you good? You well? I'll catch up with you in a minute. Just go through and I'll be in." And it was a very sort of heartwarming moment that was captured. I don't know if it was on video or anything, but right in front of the world's media. Essentially, all of us just sort of watching and waiting for him to end his conversation with the Coxes before returning to his post-match interview. And it was just these are the sorts of things that don't get spoken about enough when you are Liverpool captain. These sorts of messages that you have to put out. Just being a figurehead and a statesman as much as you are a top player on the pitch. So he is the perfect candidate for that sort of stuff. And it's fantastic news that they have got him tied down for an extra 2 years.
Absolutely. We've got a super chat here from Hawk. Says, I've just woke up with pain after surgery. I'm feeling better already. Our number 4, our captain, our centre-half, get well soon, Hawks.
Yeah.
Hope to say it will. All right. But yeah, there's some good news to cheer up in a little bit of pain. Get some painkillers and carry on watching us and listening to the comments flow in. I suppose, well, Paul, from flip side, unlike Mo Salah, there weren't really any noise around other clubs being interested in Mo Salah. There was a lot of rumours around Virgil van Dijk, Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, PSG. Yeah. Lots of clubs. Again, I'm guessing there was a lot of offers from Saudi Arabia. That's been half reported as well. For him to commit to the club, it goes back to what you say. He loves it. He says it himself. He's the Liverpool captain, but also, and I know he said something the other day about it's going to be a big summer ahead. He clearly thinks he can fulfil his ambitions here, because all those clubs are favourites pretty much to win their leagues every year, to win major trophies, to turn the likes of PSG, Real Madrid, Bayern Munich down, essentially to stay at Liverpool, shows that he must feel that, again, they're going to be Premier League champions, but this isn't a blip in, a flash in the pan. Liverpool are here to stay, because he can do what he wants to do at this football club. Yes, like what Mohamed Salah said.
I don't think there's anything that would convince him otherwise, really, given the way Liverpool's season has gone. Very unfortunate in the Champions League to go out on penalties, which can go either way. I don't really subscribe to this idea that penalties are a lottery per se, but it can go either way. Against the PSG side, who may very well end up winning it, semi-finalists now against Arsenal, aren't they? So I think next season Liverpool will be back at the thick end of the Champions League, and they will be in the Premier League as champions, defending champions. So, I think if Van Dijk, Salah, and to a lesser extent Trent, if they were sort of weighing up what the future of Liverpool looked like 12 months ago, as Liverpool prepared to move out away from the Jurgen Klopp era, I think any doubts they had or questions have been emphatically answered by what's gone on the pitch this season, which they have been a massive part of. So I think both of those players feel that they can fulfil their ambitions at Liverpool for the remainder of their careers. So absolutely fantastic news for everyone connected to the club, really. And now, I guess, in a similar way to Salah, what it does for Liverpool is allow them a bit of breathing room and a bit of time and space to make sure that the succession plan is in place and they are the right players, rather than having to react to the worst news this summer, which would have been both of them leave, and you've got to replace your top scorer and your captain down the other end of the pitch. And let's face it, you're probably not going to find a player who are as good as either of them to do it. So, big news for Liverpool on that front as well. Yeah,
you mentioned about speaking like a captain. Now he speaks. Virgil van Dijk, more comments have come out. He says, it was always Liverpool. That was the case. It was always in my head. It was always the plan. It was always Liverpool. There wasn't any doubt in my head that this is the place to be for me and my family. I am one of Liverpool. Someone called me the other day an adopted Scouser, and I'm really proud to hear these things. It gives me a great feeling. Like, he does hold himself like that statesman, like a Liverpool captain's expected to hold himself to those standards, I suppose, as well. So, yeah, not only there's no doubt about his ability as a footballer and that kind of stuff, but actually he is the perfect representation to wear that armband. Yeah. He will be lifting the Premier League title in a couple of weeks' time. He is just he's a class act on off the pitch. There's no reason why this guy you would even consider letting him get out the door, and it feels like Liverpool have always been quietly confident that he'd get this one done. Yeah, and funny enough, sort of bumped into him at the training ground last week, and he come out a bit of a side door and Virgil, how are you, blah blah, and he I don't know if you've been in the Access Training Centre, I assume you have, the big screen. Sky Sports News is on, Mo Salah's new contract, and he just goes, Mo signed the new contract, has he? Sort of underplaying it and pretending that, it was news to him. And I said, what about you then? Maybe later today? And he went, no, not today. I said, what about tomorrow? And he went, no, I don't think so. And when he said, no, I don't think so, that made me think, well, it's all done and dusted then, isn't it? We're just waiting for the right time and place to announce it. So, no major shock. And to be fair to him, he has stood up, fronted up every single game to the point where I think a lot of us who speak to him every week have understood that and understood that you can't be asking him about his future every single week, every single game, every 3 days. You've got to sort of pick and choose when you feel that it might have been a little time for progress to have been made. And, Trent Alexander-Arnold and Mo Salah, they've all handled their contract impasse, shall we say, in very different ways. Trent spoke in September after the Bournemouth game and then has sort of gone to ground since. Salah tried to rock the boat in November at Southampton and, subsequently tried a little bit here or there, and then almost reached the point where he could sort of see the finishing line and then decided that I'm not going to say anything more about it because I don't want to jeopardise what might be coming our way. Whereas Van Dijk has fronted up, and every time he's been asked about it, he's just underplayed it, no progress, nothing to say, and move on. And the way he has handled that has just been superb, really, and it speaks volumes to not necessarily the player he is, but the man he is, that he's been willing to do that. And at no point has it ever caused friction publicly in terms of what he said, on or off the record, really. So, first class handling of a tricky situation. Yeah, it's been great. We'll get some of your comments in then, guys. Ashley Frith said he signed on my birthday. Happy birthday, Ashley. There you go. There's a nice little present for you. Yeah, let's see what we've got in the comments. Yeah, John says, I am so happy. Baldwin says, let's go. Yeah, absolutely. I think everyone's feeling very, very happy that the Liverpool captain is staying. There's some reports about Chelsea. Apparently, we're trying to have conversations with them as well. Susan says, I love that comment. It was always Liverpool that is boss. Yeah, it's a great comment to have. More reporting, again, Paul, I suppose, in terms of the deal itself. Similar to Mo Salah, really, we're led to believe there's been no wage cut. Like, there's been none of that. Like, there was talk of Liverpool wanting him to take less money because he was getting into his 30s and all that. That's being reported now. In fact, if anything, it's the same with the same bonuses, all that kind of stuff. Like, there's been no, I suppose, from both sides, really, no animosity there. It's just like, same jobs are good and we'll crack on. Because from if you look in pure data, you think, fella in his 30s, do we have to try and take some of that money back? No. And from his point of view, why should he take a pay cut? He's still performing as one of the best players in the world. So, again, it goes back to, it feels like that mutual understanding's always been there. There was no, you can stay, but we need you to halve your wages. Liverpool have committed to him on a very similar contract. Yeah, because they still see him as an integral part of what they're trying to do next season. And I think, not only is it a reward for what you've already achieved at the club, it's also a backing and a statement that they believe that you can still be the main man next season, and the same applies to Salah. So, we do believe that there has been no talk of a pay cut, and that means that Mo Salah is the highest paid player in club history, and Van Dijk, not too far behind them, really. So 400 grand a week is the report, and like 400 grand a week with no release clauses, no pay cuts, all that kind of stuff. Virgil van Dijk expected to maintain his status as Europe's best paid defender. His incentives are related to team successes rather than individual performances. That's James's article before. So Liverpool have said, listen, 400 grand a week, and it goes back to it. Who's better? If you're his agent and him, you're going, well, if he's on more than me, well, I'm better than him. Even though I'm in my 30s, you've got it. And it goes back to it, like Liverpool's ownership and Liverpool, the hierarchy, rightly sometimes get criticised. We've all said sometimes we'd like you to do more. But one thing they don't do is share on wages. They've committed the best part of £1 million a week there to two players in the last week. That's huge, significant amount of money. Two players in their 30s. Like, that's a massive chunk of change going to two. I mean, two of the best players in the world. They deserve it, but yeah, this idea that Liverpool look to penny pinch somewhere, it doesn't come on wage spend.
Certainly on the wages now. They've got the second highest wage bill in the Premier League behind Man City, and I think maybe in the top 5 in Europe. And it's something that they might have to look at some stage, because I think they're currently around about 63% wages to revenue ratio, and UEFA are looking to bring in guidelines that try and get it, under 70, and there will be some sort of sanctions if you do go above that. So not loads of wriggle room for Liverpool really there. If they offload 1 or 2 players, bring in maybe younger players from other clubs, add Dean Huyson, shall we say Dean Huyson, who won't necessarily be breaking the bank to bring him in wage wise. Maybe Milos Kerr, these sorts of profiles means that there could be a sort of decrease in the wages. But when it comes to their big stars, Liverpool have proven really that they don't they don't look to try and do it on the cheap. They do reward their best players with huge contracts.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got another comment here. Zingisa says, it took longer than it should have, but I'm delighted. I said, on that, it always feels like we've been more stressed than everyone else. Is that right? From the conversations you've had with Liverpool, every report I've seen from yourself or from anyone who covers Liverpool has been, Liverpool remain confident.
Yeah.
But at some point I was thinking, are we just getting played here? You know what I mean? A little bit like, is this just kicking the can down the road? But actually, they were. It feels like nobody. Virgil Van Dijk there. It was always Liverpool.
Yeah.
We've got the club constantly saying, yeah, we're confident it'll get done. It feels like maybe we were more panicked. Arne Slot said the same at his presser. He went, I had a little bit more information about how it was going. It didn't ever sense that this was ever. I don't know. Was there any sense from you or news as you heard that this might go the other way? No,
we spoke to Van Dijk before the Carabao Cup final in one of the lounges at the training ground, and it was different to a post-match chat where we're all standing up and just played 90 minutes and focuses on that. Very much a bit more relaxed. And one of the things I said to him was, you've cut a very relaxed figure throughout all this. At no point has it felt as though it's getting to you or anything. But we are in mid-March. Is there any frustration that there's been no public progress or anything like that? And obviously he is aware of the situation a lot better than any of us. So he basically said no, and we sort of reiterated that he loves the club and what will be. So I think once you've got that commitment to finding a resolution on both ends, I think that's where the sort of relaxed attitude comes from. And look, it might have been a little bit fraught and a little bit tense behind the scenes, more than perhaps the letting on, but Slot has certainly never come across as anyone who's been concerned that he's about to lose 3 of his best players. And speaking to Van Dijk specifically, he's never come across either that he's been concerned that he might have to look elsewhere in search of his next payday. Salah was a little bit different because he tried to put the pressure on the club in November at Southampton. How much that kicked things into gear, I'm not sure, but he eventually gets what he wants. Van Dijk gets what he wants, and most importantly, the supporters are getting to see 2 of the greatest ever play for the next 2 years.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah, 2 of the best we've ever had, and soon to be double Premier League champions. Yeah. We've touched upon it. We had a question while I was speaking about it. It's from East Champ. It's actually, it technically is a question. He says, am I wrong or deluded to think that Trent might stay as well? That one's always felt the most unlikely, and we haven't heard anything. There was a lot of talk a few weeks ago about Trent and Real Madrid being close. It was around the international break. We haven't actually heard anything since, but are we still heading towards probably this is going to end up as 2 out of 3 rather than the full set?
I still think so, yeah. We'll wait and see. I mean, everyone's sort of still keeping the counsel on that one for obvious reasons, but nothing has made me think that maybe there's a sort of change of heart from Alexander-Arnold. Everything is still pointing towards him going to Real Madrid, but if he's looking at this Liverpool project for the coming years, and like we say, 2 of the best ever are on board for the next 2 years, there's nothing that's happened that would make him think that Liverpool's aren't looking to progress and kick on and really sort of look to dominate home and abroad.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll wait and see. My guess would be I'd be the opposite. I don't think so. But listen, things happen in football. I think people change their minds. You might have watched last night and thought, freak that. But you never know.
A verbal agreement is maybe not an official one.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, nothing's signed until it's signed, is it? We've all had moments like that in our past. To round up, Paul, because we were in the middle of a show, by the way. For those of you who've joined us on YouTube, we were in the middle of Journo Insight. What this means now, Liverpool, short term and long term. There's been this thought, really. Again, I consume a lot of media. It's my job of Liverpool got a little bit lucky this season. Arsenal fell away, City fell away, injuries, blah blah blah. And you're always looking to long term. but also you've got to win in the short term, and having two of the best players in the world means that Liverpool go into next year now they will be Premier League champions with a massive opportunity to go and do it again and go and win the Champions League.
Yeah.
This idea of an arm-slot rebuild after 1 year, this, signing two lads in their 30s for another 2 years on massive money, that suggests there's no plan for a rebuild. It's more of there might be a retooling and there might be players coming and going. But the expectations, obviously, for everyone involved to go and win the best stuff again and the big stuff again.
Yeah, I've got no reason to think the Liverpool fans shouldn't be hugely optimistic for what's to come. Virgil said that on Sunday. He thinks the club are planning for a big future, and what that means is open to interpretation. But I think what we will see is Slot get his fingerprints on the squad a little bit more than just sort of working with the players that he inherited. So what he wants to achieve will be done with the players who have been identified to suit that style rather than sort of tweaking it to suit the playing staff that you've got. So I think that's something to be excited about for Liverpool. I think they've got a nucleus of an unbelievable squad. You look at players like McAllister and Gravenberch and Szoboszlai, who are still young, very young in the case of Gravenberch, but they will be Premier League champions with their best years ahead of them. Then you've got the experienced, long-serving elite, as I referred to them last week, in Alisson, Van Dijk and Salah. And then you've got emerging players like, your Conor Bradleys and, I still sort of put Curtis Jones in that bracket as well. So I think there's loads to be really excited about for Liverpool going forward. They've got the two best players signed to new deals, and they will be heading into the summer as Premier League champions with ambitions of doing it all again. So I think, it's going to be a hugely exciting summer. But before that, supporters are going to get to celebrate the biggest party in a generation. Yeah,
absolutely. I can't wait for all that as well to kick off with absolutely fantastic news then. Virgil Van Dijk. It's official. We all knew it was coming. We just didn't exactly know when. I say we knew it was coming because I've just published an article by you and by your mate Ian Doyle, and you're sat there. So I'm guessing there was a little bit in the works.
Breaking the fourth wall.
We can't. We're live on the internet and an article's come out, so we can't do it anymore. But yeah, everyone was kind of roughly aware that this was going to happen. It was more a case, like say, a bit like Liverpool becoming champions. It's when, not if. We'll just cross there when we get there. A few more comments then before we go. Daryl D says, I can't wait for Big Virgil to lift that trophy and be an even bigger legend than he is already. Absolutely. And on that, he did have us, to round up very quickly, but he did have his captain's moment the other day as well.
Yeah.
Like that's what a week of Virgil Van Dijk. Listen, he messes up, goes and fixes it, goes and scores it, contract signed, contract announced, and listen, he could be a Premier League champion in a matter of days. He will be lifting that trophy again after Crystal Palace game at the end of the season. It's been, to go there, he is one of the biggest legends already, and these comments only certify that, and his commitment to Liverpool will only, I don't know what the word is, nail that down more. There's no doubt about Virgil van Dijk's status at Liverpool.
You're going to be talking about him as one of the absolute greatest ever, aren't you? And that debate will be had. Was he better than Hansen? Was he better than Ron Yates? And these are going to be debates that will happen because what an unbelievable career he's had, and that kissing of the badge was symbolic, wasn't it? It was almost like pretty much he might as well have got a piece of paper and signed on it there and then. The way that was, people responded to that, and just a word for Richard Hughes as well, because he's come under fire at times, hasn't he, for perceived inaction behind the scenes, a little bit of an inertia, according to what was happening in front of house, where not a lot was going on. But he has got 2 of the 3 major deals over the line. The third one might still prove elusive, but a big week for the sporting director. Yeah, absolutely. Like, and I read loads of the comments about how the Van Dijk and the Salah stuff were, and Virgil was heavily involved. He was taking flights to Abu Dhabi. He's been all over this, trying to meet with the representatives. Shrewd with the super chat says, it's currently 4 a.m. here in Canada. It's the best news I could ever wake up to. 4 a.m. Fair play to get up that early. Up the Reds. Thanks for joining us at 4 a.m. Going on YouTube at 4 a.m. shows some type of commitment to the cause. Right then, we're going to wrap up there. There will be more reactions to come on this news. I apologise. It'll be Dan and Chris. We'll be over on Red Men Plus very, very shortly with the Red Men Reacts. For those of you who are watching this as a JNO Insight at the start on Red Men Plus, thank you for bearing with us. The show got scrapped. Apologies to Luis Diaz and to Kostas Tsimikas. We'll talk about you guys another day. Everyone who watched us on YouTube for this wonderful breaking news, do appreciate it as well. Thanks. We'll catch you on next time.